people in Chicago are pissed the hell off. They're pissed the hell off because many of the black folks there have been voting for Democrats for years, even given to their campaigns. And when it comes time to take care of issues that impact the black community in Chicago, they're often told that there's no resources,
Now, you know, we have a tendency to vote for people because they look like us. We vote for people because they're Democrats. And, you know, traditionally, black people always support Democrats. And so we kind of go along with that. And one of the things that happened with Brandon Johnson was he was really a lesson to me and probably to other blacks that we can't just be out here voting for people because they look like.
From August 19th to August 22nd, there's going to be the Democratic National Convention. And at the Democratic National Convention, I believe they're going to announce who their party candidate is to run for president, talking about some things going on with the political party and all of that. But it might be hell to pay in Chicago because Black Chicago has already threatened to do this.
And so we say this to you, Mayor, Governor, President. If you think that they're that powerful that you have to acquiesce and answer to them over us, then you tell them to vote for you these next elections.
That's right.
You tell them to support your Democratic National Convention. And we're going to show you how we feel about the Democratic National Convention.
Turn it up.
Thank you.
If you think you're going to have a peaceful Democratic National Convention in the city of Chicago while our people are starving,
That's right.
stay tuned.
And that's why they're gonna have like more tightened security. To be fair, they always do that, but it's really gonna be tight this time around because a lot of people are upset with black Democrats, especially the mayor. Now, rewind. We all know that the migrant crisis, so it's a federal mandated thing, which means that the federal government, which is ran right now by largely Democrats, are forcing states to take these migrants in. And where they first come to is Texas, where you have Governor Greg Abbott, I believe his name is. Well, what the Texas governor is doing is, listen, we already have a lot of migrants, so we're going to ship them to the Midwest and to New York City. So they come in through Texas, they go to what is, some of these places are like sanctuary cities, New York City and Chicago. So they're being shipped there. Some are going to Boston, as we also know. But the city of Chicago is being hit rather hard. And they've already spent this amount of money on the migrant crisis.
New numbers in today on how much Chicago has spent on the migrant crisis. In total, nearly $300 million has been spent since October 2022. That does not include the cost incurred by other agencies like CPS, the Department of Streets and Sanitation, or Cook County Health. $206 million of that has gone to Kansas-based healthcare provider Favorite Healthcare Staffing to operate the city-run shelters, a group that has come under scrutiny by some aldermen who have said the city was paying them too much. There are currently more than 11,000 migrants in 23 shelters, and 4 more buses of migrants are expected to arrive in Chicago today.
That's right, $300 million. But wait, there's more. The governor of Chicago wants some more money to help these migrants that are still coming in before the Democratic National Convention. How much does he want to get?
But Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is now ready to agree to a deal with the state and county. He is now getting ready to ask Chicago aldermen to approve $70 million more for the migrant crisis.
Aldermen will be briefed on the details later on this week. Political reporter Marianne Ahern was the first to report this development.
In early February, Governor Pritzker left City Hall after meeting with Toni Preckwinkle and Mayor Brandon Johnson to find a 3-way funding deal for the migrant crisis. The state will be asking the General Assembly to approve $182 million. The county, $70 million. But days later, the mayor said no to the city's share of $70 million, despite initially agreeing. He defiantly would not explain why he backed out.
So you're making an assertion that I made a promise. Were you at that meeting?
Today, 2 months later, Chicago aldermen are being told the city will kick in its share, that $70 million.
And the fact that the governor is willing to put up some money, as well as President Preckwinkle, I think it's only right that we have the ability to put up some funding as well.
It follows a troubling pattern where the mayor's office seems to not collaborate with us, the city council, and then does something, and then we have to clean it up on the back end.
That's right, $70 million. And I don't know if you heard that cheap shot he took at the Governor Greg Abbott, but he was saying, you know, Governor Greg Abbott is trying to destroy this country, which really isn't true because he probably wants to stop any migrant from coming into Texas. But really what's happening is, while the federal government is sending migrants in and Chicago's taking them, well, you need another $70 million to house these migrants. So what they're saying is the Republicans are going to send these migrants to New York City. They're going to flood the Democratic National Convention around the same time to embarrass them in the city of Chicago with all of these migrants, so that everybody in the world can see that the migrant crisis is terrible in the city. This is what Brandon Johnson wants to blame this on. But even some aldermen out there don't take this seriously.
Out of this,
some aldermen still skeptical.
Where are the needs? What are the future needs? And how are we going to utilize these funds, taxpayers' dollars, in the correct way?
Now, to be fair, this money is already there, and it's in a reserve that they can take according to one of these news clips. But again, it could cost the city of Chicago this money that they don't have. And I saw a brother that was talking about this. It was very interesting. And he was talking about this in terms of how he used to be on welfare. Now check this out.
First of all, tell me more about your experience growing up in the welfare system. Did it wreck your family?
Well, I grew up extremely poor. At times, the lights, gas, and water off were all at the same time. My mom was addicted to crack cocaine. And it took me getting involved in public service at 14 because I wanted to change the trajectory of my community, working for my local alderman, that I began to see how government policies really impacted the people around me. Yes, there was individuals within the community that I resided within, including some folks in my family, who look to manipulate the system so they can get more, versus I am going to utilize this temporary assistance to get back on my feet so I can work and provide for my family. That's really what welfare is intended for. It's not intended to be on for generations, as we see in many communities. But this is what I really delivered before the Ways and Means Committee. We need to get back to welfare to work in the same bipartisan spirit as Speaker Newt Gingrich and President Bill Clinton at the time when they passed the 1996 Welfare Reform Act. If we can do that, we can lift out millions of poverty, and that's what's needed today in this era especially.
Now, this is an interesting point. The reason is because, well, when you was on welfare, you needed to do something to get out of the situation, right? And some people were abusing the system. Now, he's going to make that same point here with the migrant crisis.
Are migrants being prioritized over the citizens in Chicago? Because we've just seen the mayor pump more money towards the migrants. I guess that's not going to the residents.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And people in Chicago are pissed the hell off. They're pissed the hell off because many of the black folks there have been voting for Democrats for years, even given to their campaigns. And when it comes time to take care of issues that impact the black community in Chicago, they're often told that there's no resources, no ability to do so. Meanwhile, they've already spent $300 million, and they got another $300 million that they're gonna spend. They already got set up for 2024. Now, mind you, if more migrants come in, those numbers are gonna explode. We can be looking at $1 billion issue for the entire state of Illinois in the city of Chicago, and instead of having utilized resources like that for the folks that live there, they said they didn't have it. Meanwhile, in Chicago, in Illinois, as an example, you got 67 schools where the kids cannot do math at a proficient level. Not one single student in 67 schools throughout the state of Illinois, including many in Chicago. Jeez. You got 37 schools where kids are not proficient in reading throughout the state of Illinois. These are major issues that impact this community. You got unemployment between 20 and 48% in parts of the south and west sides of Chicago. They need assistance. They need help. So you're beginning to give money to these other folks who are in the country illegally?
And did you mention what he said about the black Chicagoans? How they're pissed? Because why? They've been there in the city for a long time, paying taxes, and nothing is being given to them at all. And at the same time, you're creating a liability for migrants to come over and basically just beat the system. We've all heard about the Venezuelan guy who was telling people how to be a squatter and, pretty much leech the system. This is something that's already known. Instead of teaching a level of self-sufficiency. Now, we're not saying that the migrants don't have people who want to work and be self-sufficient, but we are saying that if people can use the system, they will. And really, let me tell you something, Brandon Johnson. The migrant crisis isn't going to embarrass the DNC. The DNC has embarrassed itself for 50 years by not doing the things that they said they would. We've had, I don't know how many Democratic mayors in large black cities. We have one now in Philadelphia. We've had them in Washington, D.C. We've had them in Chicago. God knows we've had it in Baltimore. Your track record speaks for itself, sir. Nobody has to embarrass you, all right? Nobody takes the Democratic Party serious based on what you have done as results. Every major city that Democrats run are terrible, and I'm not trying to say the Republicans are where you should go and place your vote, right? Because you might not want to do that. But the reality is that Democratic cities are terrible. And this migrant crisis coming at the DNC is not what's going to make or break you guys. Nobody wants to vote for you guys anyway. Your Bring Chicago Home failed, all right? You got all these blacks talking about they want to vote for Republican because they're tired of the lies. They're tired of you. And that means that you guys don't have any level of self-accountability. There is nothing that you want to bring to the black community that provides ownership, some level of skill set, some level of development, some level of entrepreneurship, things that would empower the community, because that's not what you guys really want to do. You want to replace the community with migrants. You don't want to empower the community. So these people that want to be empowered are going to have a very different thought process than somebody like you who wants to blame everything on everybody else except on who needs to have the blame, which is y'all. But don't worry about it, Brandon. I'm pretty sure you're going to find a way to mess this up like you always do. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Shay Dude Jackson, back at it again. Another episode of King God, and I'm out.